Good afternoon. Today we're going to learn the chain stitch. So take your project, I'm going to call it a project now because that's what this is becoming, as a dang project. It should have been out of its ring all night, and now we put it back in its ring. And if we do this over and over every day, we're going to get really good at doing this, putting it in the ring. All right, because I'm getting better every day at putting it in the ring. All right, so I have not gotten my crewel yarn, or not yarn, my crewel tapestry floss yet. So I'm still going to use cotton, but once I get it, then I'll switch over. Okay. So with cotton, yesterday I mentioned that these are 6 tiny little strings. So to do this chain stitch, I'm just gonna thin it out. I'm only gonna use 3 pieces of thread out of this. So you just separate it like this, and it should come pretty easy. Without knotting, if you're lucky. So I'm apparently not lucky. So I'm just kind of pulling on it. Frustrated again. I had a really late night again. It's already pretty late in the day, and I've just had a really rough day. All right, well, I knotted it pretty bad, so I'm just going to cut that off so I can use my thread or my floss and start this stitch. Hopefully it doesn't start fraying apart. So go ahead and needle or thread your needle and tie a knot at the end. This might be too short because remember we have to do that away stitch that we learned yesterday too, which was to start away from your line that you're going to be stitching, and that way you can back stitch it to finish your line neatly instead of doing a big knot. So I'm going to be starting right here, so I'm putting my stitch in here to where the knot's way over here. Now to do a chain stitch, what you do is you start at the top. You can see where I already tried it once and I had to take it back out. So here's the top of my line, and I take the thread and I push it down, or push it through. Then you hold down the thread, because you're not going to, you're going to leave a loop on this side, on the finished side. So you push your needle through below, right below where you pushed it through in. So we'll call this A, this is B. Then once you have your loop, you come up again through B, no, that's wrong. Son of a gun. Let me start over. Okay, I got it. So starting over, you put your needle in and you pull your thread through. Then you hold down the thread and you put your, so you're keeping a loop outside of your line, and then you put it back in A, back where you brought the needle this way. So now you're going to push it back, but you're going to keep part of the thread outside of here. Okay, see, I'm holding it. So then you take your needle and you push in right below your thread, right there. So whenever you pull that or push that in, you wrap your hoop, your circle or your hoop right here, this circle, and you pull it through like that. And see how it's kind of made a little chain? Then you do it again. This time you're gonna hold your thread over again, and we're gonna put it in a little bit below, and we're trying to space it out pretty good. So you put it in, and then you push it back through in the same place, same area, and you don't want to stick it through your different levels of stuff. Okay, now we've got a circle. Push it through, and we've got our second little chain, I think. Although mine got a little bit twisted. Oh, I see what happened. So whenever I came up, I didn't come up. What has happened here? Oh my God. Okay, I need to practice before I try to show this to you. Hang on. So I've backed up a little bit. So we have our first little chain right there. Now, to do the next chain, you just hold down your thread again, and you go in where you came out at the bottom of that chain. You hold your thread down so that you have enough to make your next loop. And then you come in a little bit below that. Like that. So then you pull that through, and it makes your next chain. It's not real pretty though. I don't know why. So then you go back in just underneath that little chain loop, and you are holding your thread outside so you can make the next loop. And then you're going to come in again just below that last one, about there, and put your loop there so that it's coming into the middle of the circle, and you pull it, and that makes your next loop. And then you hold your thread again for the next loop, and you push your needle through where you came out before too, and it tacks down each loop. So you have this one. So now we're at the bottom of this one, and we're just going to go right back to tack this one down. Well, right back in that hole to tack that down, and then you hold your thread down, and we're going to make our next loop by putting the needle back through just underneath it again, like that. I mean, I get it, I understand what it is that we're doing, and I hope you do too, but it's not looking really good. Just keep in mind you tack down the bottom of the little circle by going right back where you came out, right underneath that circle, right underneath that chain. So that makes sense that they call it a chain stitch. All right, so I think it would be best if you kind of try to do it flat, not picking it up the way that I am. But so you're kind of making like a snowman, but with lots of heads. The more you go, the more heads you got. So then I push my needle through, and you always just leave, whenever you go back in, you leave about, a circle on the outside, a loop that you can then tack down with your next stitch. So you pull it, and then you put your needle right in the same spot. I mean, I don't think you want it exactly in the same spot, because then it's just going to come through all the way and undo this. Well, maybe it won't, because you got that piece of thread in there between them. So you hold it down. Maybe if I hold it like this, maybe you can see. So you hold it like this, and then you push your needle through the next one, the next circle. Then you pull it and tighten up your little circle. So yeah, it does kind of look like a snowman with lots of heads, like a big snowman. So just remember, wherever you come out, that's where you're going back in. But whenever you go back in, you hold some of the thread out and keep it wrapped around your finger, so you can then come out and do the next stitch below it. And then you tighten it, and then that makes another loop. And you hold it down. You tack it down. So you're like tacking down the bottom of each little circle by doing it this way. And I think it'll give it a cool effect once you get, once we get good at it. It'll make it look really cool. But until we get good at it, it's just not that pretty. Alright. So hopefully yours looks like that. The back looks like this, because all you're really getting is where the thread is tacking down the bottom of the little loop. On the front, it looks kind of like a chain. So hopefully you got the gist of how to do this. And now I'm going to finish up this row, and then we'll finish off the row. And what I would suggest is, if you're not real good at it, like I'm not, then to practice on a couple of your sampler lines until you get good. And my little strings are kind of coming apart a little bit. So that might be because this isn't one piece of actual thread, because that's the way this cotton stuff is it's like 3 pieces of thread. I don't know if you can see them. See, it's got 3 pieces of thread. So whenever it gets screwed up, because one becomes separated from the other two, then you start getting these little crappy pieces that are kind of randomly standing out by themselves because they're individual. They don't want to play nice. So there you go. I'm going to finish this up and finish up this line real quick, regardless of how good or bad it looks. And then once I'm done with that, then I'm going to practice on a few rows without you. So if you're really bad at it too, then you want to practice a few of these rows on your own, so you catch up with everybody else. Because this is just not that easy. You know, they say, oh, you know, it's super easy and it's calming. This isn't calming to me whenever it's frustrating. It's just not. Okay, hold it down, push the needle through a little bit lower. Then tack it down, holding the thread on this side in a loop, and then come up a little bit below that. Pull your chain, put your needle back where you came out at the base of the last chain, then come up below it, and then pull it tight. This does not look good. I don't know why it doesn't look good. Oh, hold on to your circle. Alright, I'm on the last bit of it. Alright. So now to end it, I'm going to do a couple of tight stitches. I'm going back through a couple times on this very last stitch, and then on the back I'm going to go twice one way. So one, I hope you can see this, 1, 2, and I'm just going through the stitches, and then go this way, one, 2, and then you take your thread, your needle, and you're just going to kind of weave it into your little baby stitches back here. Not in the fabric, or try not to get it in the fabric. I guess if you get a little bit in the fabric, it's okay. Because, you know, there's a lot of little threads that make up this fabric. Now this is where this little circle, you know, I think this is what this is really for. So you can grab onto the end of your needle and just pull. So see how that got threaded through? Like here was the end, but here's the tail. It's way up here because I ran it through. It's 12 minutes. Now we're going to do it with this away stitch. And again, we're just gonna go through twice. So 1, oh, and remember to look at the front and make sure that it looks like it's supposed to look. Otherwise, you'll end up with the screw up like this. So 2. It's pretty short. You might want to make your little tail from your away stitch like even further away than I'm doing. It said 5 inches, but I don't know, I'm not a good judge of distance. Alright, so now I'm going to go 2 this way, so 1, 2, and then I go 2 this way, 1. Uh-oh, I knotted it. Alright, since I knotted it, I'm only going to do it once, and then I'm going to go ahead and weave it into my stitches back here, the back of my stitches, just the thread. And if you happen to catch a little bit of the fabric, I mean, it's going to be behind your stitch on the front anyway, behind the chain stitch, so it should be okay. So now I'm going to pull it with my little piece of rubber. Alright. Okay, so there's the finished product of a chain stitch. I'm sure it'll look better after I do it a few times. I think part of the problem with this, with what I was doing, is I wasn't going in right here. Let me get my pointer out. Like right here. I don't know if you can see that, but you can see where I came up with A right here. And then whenever I went back in way over here. So you want to make sure you go in from this side to tack down your loop. You want to make sure you go in the same place where you came out, so you don't have that funky. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and practice some more. I'm going to do another one over here to match this one. And I might do, I don't know, I might do like 4 rows, because that I'm not happy with the way that chain stitch, until I'm happy with the way it looks. So I would suggest that you do that too. And I'll see you tomorrow. We will learn a stem stitch. That's the next stitch that we're going to learn. All right, bye. Okay, so I practiced quite a bit on my chain stitch. If you recall, this was the first one, then this one, then this one, and then I did this one, and then I started removing some of the thread from the floss, because you have 6 individual strings for the floss. So this one was 2 pieces of floss here, and then this one was 1. So they're getting skinnier and skinnier. I'm feeling better about it. It's not great, but that's as much as I can really handle doing today, because I've taken a lot of time working on it. The back is looking okay. It's a little better than I was doing up here with this. Whenever you start and end, whenever you start, you put the away stitch way off to the side, And then whenever you end, you wrap it around both directions and then weave it through the back stitches. So you can see where this one here got a little bit knotted up. Right here, there's a little loop, but that's okay. So tomorrow we will learn the stem stitch. Have a good night.